Briggs, all he needs is basically a referral. You know, he needs to get his captain to call the diplomatic security company and just vouch for him. Say he's a squared away soldier, and that's what he wants. To get that, he has to take Lulu on this road trip from basically the Pacific Northwest all the way down to kind of very close to the Mexican border. And it's gonna be a handful. You know, you think just putting a dog in a car and just driving it down there is enough, but one of these dogs is, and this guy also, they're both special, let's just say, and they're gonna fight each other all the way down the coast. And if he does that, and if he gets Lulu to this funeral without anything that happens bad, then he gets the referral, and that's all he's got to do. They're both pretty insane. They'll definitely go. They'll go until they can't go anymore. And I think when you have two brick eaters that are ready to lock up at any point, you know that you can have fireworks almost at any moment in the movie. That there's an actual gun in that car, two guns essentially, like they're like it's a powder keg. It can pop off at any moment, and they're equal matches for each other. There's a moment where we both grab this like stuffed unicorn, and look, the unicorn was never going to stay together if one of us wasn't either told to let go or didn't just let go before it ripped, because it would have just been done like in a heartbeat. And so it's just funny. They're equal match, and the only difference between them is that one's a canine and one's a human, humanish. Dogs are kind of these like very present things. You know, they don't have so much. They do on some level that, you know, maybe we'll never know. How much are they thinking of the future? How much are they thinking of the past? Like, who knows? But every time you come home is like the first time that you've come home, you know, and like it doesn't matter. I could walk out of the house for 30 minutes and then, you know, that cutie, my new dog, like she's just like, oh my God, you're back. And it's I think such a reminder of joy is always sort of accessible, you know, and even though we're humans, and I think we do focus entirely too much on the future and the past, you can really only experience joy in the present. And I think dogs are just so present. You know, I think they're so, all of a sudden their whole state, they can go from like dead asleep to like, you know, having the time of their life, you know, and or switch to another emotion, you know, really, really fast. And I think it's all in a real-time sort of thing. It doesn't mean they don't want to go play fetch or go for a walk or something, but I think it's something beautiful. I think humans somehow love dogs because of that. You know, I think Lulu's a different dog than probably the last time he saw her. So I don't know if he knows exactly what to expect. He knows what these dogs are capable of, that's for sure. He's worked with her. He's went out on deployments with her. He's seen her do what these dogs do, what these war dogs do, and it is pretty, you know, full on. But he's done it himself. He's been kicking indoors for a while as well, and you know, they're equals, and like those dogs are soldiers to him. They're not equipped. Slowly, he actually starts to take care of this dog. Like and in a way, you know, we definitely did not want to be heavy-handed about this. If anything, we almost wanted this to be unintelligible in the movie, other than to us. Like, the dog is him. You know, they're just mirrors for each other. And, you know, he kind of, I think, discovers this connection and this sort of just want to connect with this dog. And it's not even, I don't think it's even conscious. We would all know the word rolling and action, because it was a prompt for them. And that happened on the day one. Day one, third take, second take even, you know, because we had rehearsed something before that. Like, as soon as they yelled, rolling, and then everyone yells rolling around set, and all the energy goes up. And you don't want the dog's energy to be up because you want it to be calm and chill and not pull you around. And these dogs are just so smart. Like, they're incredibly smart, and they love working. It's what they wake up. They wake up in the morning and they're like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Where are we going? How do we get to do it? Let's do it as many times as we possibly can. Please don't, like, let's not go to sleep. There's a scene where I run out to the car and Zuza's in the car because Zuza's going ape in the car. And I have to open the door and be like, what? And like scream and be really aggressive. Like, you know, what do you want? And because Zuza was like my friend, like in real life, she was just like, oh my God, what did I do? Like, I was only doing what I was what I was supposed to do. Why am I getting yelled at right now? Her ears like went back, and I was like, oh, it like broke my heart because I was like, no, we're homies. So like we, each and after every one of those scenes, I would have to go over and be like, no, it's okay. Like you're my friend. They must think I'm out of my mind. Rodriguez, you know, I've known him equally as long as I've known Reid. We all met on the same movie, this movie called Stop Loss, and he was someone that I met and just sort of an advisor. He was in the military. He was in 10th Mount, and just to be around soldiers, you know, like that's kind of, they put us with, you know, real soldiers, and we just became friends and just stayed in touch through the years. And then he worked with me in different capacities at different times, and then he went back and contracted for a few years, and then he came back, and then he actually produced, and I think he even directed some of War Dog because of all of his connections into the military. You know, we all did a lot of sort of getting our foot in the door of certain special forces. You know, they're a tight-knit group, and you can't just call up the Rangers and be like, hey guys, what's up? We want to come bring cameras into your lives. Like, like it wasn't like that. You had to go and like earn their trust, let them know what we were doing. And it was really Brett that did that. He really embedded himself in these people's lives, and you know, it was a big responsibility. He's like, look, if we're going to make a movie about he wasn't a Ranger. That's not something that he can, you know, claim. He's like, I'm not that. I'm not them. And what they did is different than what I did. And he wanted to make sure that it was done right, and because these guys are really special to him, and they're actually really special to us. He really listens, and not just listens with just this like, all right, I'm gonna just like dictate that back down onto the page, like, you know, almost just like I'm gonna take everything you said and I'm just gonna like put it there. No, he really digs and finds a larger meaning that I would have never been able to see in it. Like, and his ability to see the 30,000 foot view, he's taught me more about movies than almost any of the directors that I've worked with that are some of the best directors in the world, you know, because of the time that we've had together. And, you know, I don't feel stupid asking him any question. Or I'd be like, wait, what is that? I don't even know what that word is that you used. What does that mean? And just like there's just a connection and a compassion that I think he has, unlike almost anyone that I've worked with. And like the connection is the will to want to understand something that he might not understand. I think one thing that Reid has almost head and shoulders above everybody, and not just because he's 6'6", is that he actually wants to know what they're understanding. Like, he's like, all right, what are you getting? Like, what? And he's really trying to have them put themselves into the character, into the movie. And then that comes, I think, from the writing what he's learned in the writing process as well, is he really wants people to have a say and to be a part of the creative process, and not for it to be a dictatorship.
Where you get a guy and a dog in the car, and both of them really just kind of are trained to bite, and neither one of them listen to each other, and they have sort of competing agendas in life. All sorts of chaos ensues. And so that's the basic setup of the movie. They're basically they're both animals. They're both kind of like feral animals. They don't think before they act, and that's where a lot of the comedy comes from. That's where a lot of the kind of wildness of the movie comes from. But they're both along the way showing each other these aspects of themselves that they're not really paying attention to. Lulu and Briggs are struggling with the loss of tribe. They're struggling with the fact that in Briggs's case, he no longer has this group of guys that value him, that he values, that he can go to work every day and mean something to. Like, he's cast out into the world without any place to go to apply those skills. And Lulu has lost her handler. I mean, that person who she's established a year's, 5-year, 6-year-long relationship with, being trained by him. There's a deep bond and trust there. He's no longer there. She doesn't know, she can't work with anybody else. She doesn't understand how to work with anybody else. And so she's kind of lost her tribe and her tether to her job. And so at a deep level, I think they're struggling with that loss of identity in a way. Channing and I started working with the dogs about 9 months before we started shooting. A lot of that was because of the pandemic setting in and us realizing, okay, we can't shoot for a while, so let's spend the time with the dogs, which was highly valuable. As we were writing, Channing would be in the backyard, you know, training with the dogs. And that was awesome. It really, I mean, that's the foundational relationship of the movie. And honestly, if I could have taken 2 years to work on that with them, I would have. Like, you can't have enough time. So that really, yeah, I think that's one of the special things about the movie is I imagine that in most animal movies, you hire a animal trainer and they kind of come in and they show up on set and they're like, okay, the dog's gonna do this and that and the actor's gonna stay over here and we're gonna get that shot and then it's like, and we're done. And this was much different. We wanted to show what it might be like for someone to feel that sense of disconnection from their community and to want it back. Oftentimes movies about war are about the traumas and the horrors of war and why war is sort of bad. And we really wanted to not make a moral judgment on war and just understand from a soldier's point of view why you might really miss and want that type of experience again, because it was the only thing that made you feel alive and made you feel part of something and gave you that sense of meaning and identity. I don't know how anyone could make a story about the military without including real veterans. I'm not really sure how I could ever do that. And so for us, it was like, it was like we have to. If they're not involved, we can't go this route. So we needed, in order to know how to render the production design, how to write people speaking to each other, like how to make a scene had to come from the people who'd lived that. You know, the amazing thing about working with Chan is that, well, there's many, but I think the most prominent one is that he doesn't have a false bone in his body. So he will never approach a problem or an idea from a place of convention, and he will never approach a creative situation from a logical place of like, well, the best thing for act one would be, or, you know, I really feel like I should be perceived like he's never, the artifice of being a movie star has not eroded his soul, you know, like he's unapologetically who he is, truthful, and it's like a tuning fork that I get to follow as a writer, as a director, as a creator on all fronts. Like, I know that if it's not working, it's because it's not truthful for him. We produced a documentary for HBO about war dogs, and that brought us into a whole community of Army Rangers and their dogs that they work with in the Special Forces. And we kind of fell in love with these guys and their dogs. And when we finished the movie, we knew we wanted to kind of keep telling a story in this world. And then Chan lost his dog, and that kind of spawned a connection between something personal and this experience we had just gone through.
Yeah, I mean, and I was at the time that I lost my dog, I was going through a pretty tough time in life, or just really complex, and I was losing my best friend during it. And you know, we went through a bunch of different machinations of kind of telling that story, that bond, that thing. What is it between, you know, a man and a dog, or a woman and a dog, really a human and a dog? That's a really old thing. And then when we really started to examine these soldiers that, you know, they've been very conditioned and taught to compartmentalize their emotions, to compartmentalize their connection with the world at large that didn't experience what they experienced, you know, in their lives. And you know, they probably even came into the military a little bit almost conditioned to do that anyways. They might be kind of special in that way. But the Rangers are, you know, they're not just normal military. They're doing very specialized things, and you know, and then once it's really fascinating. They have these walls up and these things that they don't really let people in on, and then but a dog can come in to the room and turn these like hardened soldiers into these like little lovey puppy dog sort of loving guys, and it sort of unlocked them.
We connected all these dots of these experiences we've had in life. We we always drew them back to wanting to make a road movie, and they're just our favorite kinds of movies. Mostly because they're full of heart and humor. They make you laugh, and generally speaking, they make you feel something, and they expose you to new ideas and places and wild characters. And so we decided to set this movie on that type of canvas, and hoped that that was a way to bring people into this world that was, this world of Special Forces soldiers and their dogs. That's very insular and foreign to most people. We didn't want to make a war movie. We didn't want to make a movie that was sad and dark and about broken people. We wanted to make it about these guys who we got to know and become friends with, who are just really alive, and these dogs who are equally, if not more, kind of alive and vibrant. So we wanted to kind of bring it out of the military and into this world of the road.
Yeah, we talked a lot about tone in the beginning, and like, we didn't want to make a sad soldier movie. And that was, I think, one of the first things that we kind of looked at each other and said. We were like, we're not making a sad soldier movie. Every soldier movie somehow this like really dark thing, and like, there is darkness there, but there's also, like, the guys that we know are so funny and so alive.
They both have wired themselves to be the most hard-charging, never give up soldiers on the face of the planet. And by the end of the film, they both find themselves surrendering to each other and surrendering to a new way of life that's transitioning out of war and into civilian life and more peace. And so we liked that the whole story was sort of focused on that journey of surrender. We really, in the movie, wanted to photograph dogs in a way that most dog movies don't. We really wanted to not only make the dog a main character in the film emotionally, but also in dog movies, typically the way you see an animal is like you cut to basically an insert shot, and there's a trainer right off camera doing something, so the dog does a specific behavior, and then you cut back to the action. And the way we really wanted to do it was to try to do as much as possible in wide shots where the dog had learned behavior and could interact with Chan in a more complex way, which is hard to do when you're on a short schedule and just hard to do in general with dogs. And it's always a challenge working with animals, but our trainers were so incredible, and Chan spent months and months working with these dogs every day that I think we're able to achieve a level of realism that most animal movies don't. Well, we had a handful of real rangers from our documentary and a few other guys that they were connected to and brought into our world on set for every single one of the scenes that we did at the Ranger base, Fort Lewis in Washington, and then at the Ranger funeral at the bar in what's called Pat Barry's outside the base. And then again at the Riley's funeral in the desert, we had an actual military color guard and advisors there. So yeah, wherever possible, we included real folks in this whole process. And the Rangers were incredible. I mean, they literally came in and helped build every last detail of our set on base, of the bar. Like they were really in charge of every creative decision of how the production design looked in those worlds. So.
Yeah, and it's really specific in these worlds, right? Like these guys live in those worlds, like some of the.
Yeah, it means everything to them.
Yeah, I mean, and in every
down to like the last detail on a uniform.
Yeah, or like, why is that weapon in this room? It doesn't make any sense for this weapon to be. And there's like, why would it be there? It's kind of what we have. And they'd be like, well, someone would be stripping it and cleaning it. And we're like, great. Like I didn't even think of that. Yeah, let's do it.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and comment on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to be notified when new videos are released.